This lesson is going to explain to how to answer question 4 of paper 1, English language from AQA. So our word of the day today is evaluate, because that's a key word that links with our question today. And evaluate means to form an idea about something. Okay, so to form an idea about a topic. So I could say, can you evaluate the impact of Meghan's interview on the royal family? Okay, so you could have a think about how this might have impacted the family, what's happened as a result, how people might feel, and that is an evaluation of the situation. So our recall questions for today. What do you have to do for question 1 of this paper? And I hope that you've remembered that all you have to do is find 4 pieces of information that's requested from the first paragraph of the text. What do you have to do for question 2? For question 2, we have to write about the language that the writers used to create a certain impression of something. What do you have to do for question 3? We have to write about the structure of the text. And both of these questions are covered in the other videos. So if you're not sure about how to answer those questions, then please do go back and have a look at those. How many marks do you need for a grade 4 from the 2019 series, which was the last set of papers that were marked nationally? And if you're not sure about this, you can look in the student booklet, or you can look at the previous lesson. We covered that in the question 2 lesson, the language lesson. You need 38 marks, or you did need 38 marks in 2019 to hit that grade 4 boundary. Tell me 4 language methods. 4 language methods. Okay, so you could have a simile, a metaphor, personification, alliteration, sensory writing. There are so many of them. I hope you've remembered them. They are language methods. Oops. Now tell me 4 word classes. So it's important to understand the distinction between these two, but remember that we can write about both of them in our answer to question 2, because they're both language devices. But a word class, we're thinking of nouns, verbs, adverbs, adjectives, noun phrases, and so on. If you're not sure, Google them. There are also some very good games on WordWall where you can go and play little games at home just to help you understand the differences between the word classes. What does structure mean? Well, structure means how you're shaping something. So the structure of a text is how the writer has shaped the text to interest the reader, or to have some kind of effect on the reader, or to guide them through a text. Which 3 parts of the text should you look for in your structure question? And of course, we're going to look for the beginning, what the writer's done at the beginning, or the exposition of the text. And then we're going to look at the features that are within the middle. So it might be dialogue, flashback, all sorts of things we'll find there in the middle. And then, of course, how has the writer left you at the end of the article, at the end of the extract? What questions are you left with? What do you want to find out? How do you feel? So tell me 4 structural devices. I have mentioned some already. We could have flashback. We could have foreshadowing. We could have description of character, dialogue, a cyclical ending, a cliffhanger, all sorts of different ones. Go back to the other video if you can't remember. And how many marks is the structure question worth? It's worth 8 marks. 8 marks. Okay, so today we're going to move on to question 4. If you're not sure about question 3, go back and watch the video. Make sure that you know exactly how to answer that one. So today we're moving on to our big question, the 20-mark question. Very, very important that we answer this. And a surprising amount of students don't answer this question, and instead they leave it. And you've lost 20 marks there. So we need 38 marks to gain a grade 4. And then when we've got the grade 4, there are 5 marks to move up to a grade 5, 5 more marks to move up to a grade 6, and so on. So if you don't answer a 20-mark question, then you have lost potentially 4 marks on this, 4 grades on this paper. So that's 2 marks across 2 grades across the whole GCSE. And a surprising amount of students just don't answer this question because they're tired. They might have done the writing question first and then gone questions 1, 2, 3, and they've got to number 4 and they're just exhausted. And I do sympathise because it's a difficult job to try and keep writing for 1 hour and 45 minutes, but you should be filling that time completely. And it's so important that you do that to get all of those marks in that you need. So let's have a think about our evaluation skills. A student said, the newspaper headlines make you feel sympathy for Meghan. How far do you agree? Okay, so let's have a look at these headlines. And that's the sort of question we'll get for question 4. How far do you agree with this statement? So the newspaper headlines make you feel sympathy for Meghan. Now, you might have your own opinion on this, but it's not asking really for that. Let's just have a look at the question in detail. A student said, the newspaper headlines make you feel sympathy for Meghan. How far do you agree? So it's not asking, do you feel sympathy? It's asking, do the newspaper headlines make you feel sympathy? Right, so make sure you get that right. You could underline the keywords in the question to make sure you understand exactly what it is that it's asking you. So we've got the words, Kate made me cry. Now, I think that, yes, that newspaper headline is making me feel some sympathy for Meghan because she's obviously been upset. Nobody wants to think of somebody else being upset. And it's over a wedding as well. And so nobody wants a bride to be upset. But I'm thinking of the word cry in particular. That makes me feel very sorry for Meghan. And have got a lot of sympathy for her because it's a very emotive word, isn't it? Cry. And also probably the verb made, like Kate was forced into this situation. Meghan was forced into this situation by Kate. And so I do feel sorry for her because it sounds like she's been bullied. However, if I go over to the left, over here, this one says, whingy chat dubbed mopperer. Okay. And that word there, whingy, doesn't make me feel very sorry for Meghan at all because it sounds the adjective whingy, because it's a describing word, makes it sound like she's moaning like a child and she's got no reason to moan about it. And so I think the newspaper headlines, on one hand, do make me feel sympathy for Meghan. On the other hand, they don't make me feel sympathy for Meghan. And I've tried to explain that. Now, I have put some words here that you could try to use in your explanation. You could try and verbalize that. I didn't use any of those words, I don't think. But I think if you did that, that would be fantastic. Another go. A student said, The newspaper headlines make you feel that Britain lost an important person when Sir Tom died. Okay, so how are these newspaper headlines making us feel that Britain lost an important person when Sir Tom died? How far do you agree? Right. Well, we've lost a national treasure. Now, that sounds like the country has lost a very important person because they were a national treasure. And the noun used to describe the man as a national treasure makes me think that he was extremely valuable. And if I were to pull apart the noun treasure, I could explain that it sounds like it's something valuable, something sought after, something that you've got to look after, and you should keep it safe. And also the verb lost. We've lost something. We've lost something really important. We've suffered a loss, and so we should be grieving. And in the second one, the we never walked alone with you by our side. The adverb never particularly makes it apparent that when Sir Tom was alive, that we were actually we had company. We were supported by him. He was the symbol of England that we all should aspire to. So all sorts of things we could discuss and explain through that. And for a higher grade, 7 to 9, I might want to explain an alternative opinion and look at it from another way and explain that. Okay, so our evaluation question is worth 20 marks. And we always say we should have a minute for each mark and then half again. So 20 marks is 20 minutes and half again makes 30 minutes. Okay, so we're looking to spend about 30 minutes of our 1 hour and 45 minutes on this question. Try and get used to keeping an eye on the clock. The average mark for this question in 2019 was approximately 7 marks, and I've said that from my own experience of marking papers for the country. A lot of students are missing vital ingredients out of their answers, and I will explain that to you. So lots of students only got 7 marks out of 20. If we can get half marks, that's fantastic. And anything beyond half marks is what we're looking for. So I've got some top tips. Don't leave the question out. Lots of students do it. Please don't do that. You must try and answer it if you want to get your grades. Allow yourself enough time for the question. 30 minutes. Don't go over 30. Keep an eye on it. Some students like to work backwards through the paper. So some students find it beneficial to go question 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You might find it better to do it that way or go question 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. I would recommend doing question 5 first of all. And it works for some students to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. However, I do think going 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, if you keep an eye on your time, will help as well because you can use some of the materials from question 3 and 4, 2 and 3 in your question 4 answer. And the papers marked by question by different people. So an examiner, one person will never see the whole of your exam booklet. Okay, so that's worth remembering. It's scanned into the computer and the examiners mark a question each day. So I might mark 200 question 2s, perhaps that's an exaggeration, in a day. And then the next day, I'll move on to question 3s. And they won't necessarily be from the same students. And we don't see names either. So there's absolutely no way an examiner is going to look at your paper and think, well, I'm not awarding them marks for question 4 because they've already used that in question 2 or 3. You're absolutely allowed to reuse anything you can do if it's applicable. So evaluation to form an opinion about. A student, having read this section of the text, lines 16 to the end of the Brighton Rock extract in your booklet, said, "This part of the text, explaining what Hale is doing, shows how nervous and unsafe he feels. It reminds me of the first line. To what extent do you agree?" So I'm just going to, focus back in. This part of the text explaining what Hale is doing shows how nervous and unsafe. And it reminds me of the first line. Right. Remember, the first line was that we knew that someone wanted to murder him. Right. Okay. So list 4 things I'm putting this question in because sometimes you can use your answers to question 1 to begin each paragraph of your response to this question. So, for example, I'm using my question 1 skills and I'm trying to think of 4 things that shows how nervous and unsafe Hale feels. So, 4 things that we learned from the whole extract that makes me feel that Hale feels nervous and unsafe. Now, let me have a look back at the text. Now, I'm not going to read it all through. It might be useful for you to pause the video here and try and see if you can see some answers within there. What makes us think Hale feels nervous and unsafe? And then how does that link to the first line? Okay, so pause the video, have a read through, and then I will go to the next slide where I've done some answers. So he drank his gin and tonic hastily. While he's drinking his gin and tonic hastily, it makes me think that he's drinking perhaps because he's nervous, that he needs to calm his nerves. And also the adverb hastily is doing it quickly. Is he on the run from somewhere? Has he got to keep moving? He always played fair, always wore the same kind of hat. Now, he follows a clear, methodical pattern. Is that for safety? Is it for disguise? Always played fair makes me think, why is somebody trying to murder him then? But he does seem very nervous, doesn't he? That he seems to be following a clear, methodical pattern. And that repetition of the word always, always, the adverb actually, always, makes me realise that he does things the same all the time, and maybe that's for safety. There were reasons he didn't feel too safe, and that's a direct quote as well, isn't it? And he's not feeling safe. Reasons, the noun reasons, well, how many reasons are there that he didn't feel very safe? And of course, the actual adjective of safe makes me think that he's got some reason to worry about danger. And finally, he's got bitten nails, and the adjective of bitten makes me think that he's very nervous because people bite their nails, don't they, when they're nervous? So the question was, this part of the text explaining what Hale is doing shows how nervous and unsafe he feels. It reminds me of the first line. And of course, yeah, he's feeling all of those things because he knew that someone meant to murder him. Our first line of the text is up there, that someone meant to murder him. And so all of those things, yes, do make us think that Hale feels nervous and unsafe. You might want to say, actually, maybe he doesn't feel unsafe though, because he's walking around and he's following the same pattern. And if he really was worried, then he would take a different route every day. It's up to you what you're going to write. You don't have to agree or disagree, but we do have to include 4 vital ingredients in each paragraph of our evaluation response. So we need a brief point summarising a reason why you agree or disagree with the statement. I'm just going to go to my next slide. I agree that Hale seems to feel nervous and unsafe because the writer states that. And then, of course, we need evidence, words or phrases copied from the text. There were reasons why he didn't feel too safe in Brighton. We then need an explanation of why the evidence makes me arrive, I've missed a word out there, sorry, at this opinion. So why does that evidence make me arrive at the opinion that, yes, he does seem to feel nervous and unsafe? This suggests that he feels nervous and unsafe because he is not at ease on the streets and he knows that people are after him for whatever reason. Now, very, very important. And the thing that most students forget to do is an explanation of the language or the structure that's used by the author to make you arrive at this opinion. And when I was talking about the points I'd referred to, I referred to the adverb for hastily, because that adverb hastily does make me think that he's nervous. The repetition of always, always, and the adjective of bitten. Lots of students forget to write about the language that's used to make you arrive at this opinion. So you must explain about the language. So the writer has used the adverb of to in this sentence, which further suggests he feels nervous and unsafe. Oh, I need a full stop there, sorry. It suggests that he doesn't feel entirely secure and that he might be under threat. Sorry, I made an error there. Especially as the opening line states that someone meant to murder him. For grade 7 to 9, you might want to explore that further and examine that quote, really pulling it apart. Okay, so for a higher grade, really examine it. You might want to explore alternative interpretations within that piece of evidence that you've got there. But for the grade 7 to 9, it's examine, 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 pull it apart. And for our grades 4 and onwards, notice how big this explanation is here. Okay, so we still want a nice big explanation. This is a good example that is in your student booklet, and I think that it's fairly short. I would like to see you using more than that, writing more than that. But I suppose if we imagine it written in longhand, in handwriting, it would be quite long. Okay, so we're looking for around 2 sides or 2.5 sides of writing in answer to this question, because it is worth 20 marks. So I do think this one might be a little bit short, but it does give us some indication of where the student has written using subject terminology, and they've explained why that makes you think that, yes, he does feel nervous. Now, try to write your response to question 4 in your answer booklet, and there are some sentence starters there to help you. Okay, you don't have to use these sentence starters. They are just there as a guide for you, and I'm sure you'll manage without them, but they're there just to support you. Okay, thank you very much. Good luck with it. I hope this video has helped you, and I will be recording how to respond to the writing question this afternoon and posting it on the site. So thanks for listening.